Hello everybody, it's Mike Patterson from White Turtle Adventures here in Southern Alberta, Canada. Welcome back to my van. So yesterday I took the van out for a trip around Southern Alberta, and it was quite a windy day, and it brought back a question that I was asked many months ago about how hard is it to drive a van compared with a standard car. Well, let me tell you that it is different than driving a car, but it's not really difficult driving a van over a car. Now, there are some things that you're going to need to consider. One of the first things is that a van, an RV, or a bus, or if you're towing a tiny home behind you, they're going to respond a lot differently when you're starting off and when you're braking. So when you start off, generally you're not going to have the same oomph to take off in a bigger vehicle as you're going to have in your smaller car. Now, one thing about this van with the engine that it does have in it and with my minimum build inside is it does accelerate really well. In fact, it probably accelerates better than the White Turtle 4, which is the Subaru, because this one has a much more powerful engine in it, but it still just doesn't take off like what a car does. Nor that when you're braking does it brake the same way. It takes a little bit longer for your brakes to work when you have more weight behind you. So that's one thing that you're going to want to consider. It's not a lot to learn, but it is a little bit to learn. So if you are at a stoplight and the light turns green, chances are you're not going to be taking off with the pack. You're going to be a little bit slower. So consider that when you're doing it. More importantly, if you're at a stop sign and you decide that you're going to go and there's a car coming, understand that chances are your van or your RV or your bus is not going to be able to get through the intersection as fast as what your car could have. So keep that in mind. Also, give yourself a little bit more room for when you're braking. This van, again, it brakes very well. My motorhome had great brakes on it, so did my truck. But you can feel the difference, and the heavier that your build is, the more it will respond differently. So consider that when you are starting to drive. One thing that you will find, and this is one thing that I noticed big time yesterday, is it was very windy in Southern Alberta, so the winds were pushing my van around quite a bit. Now, my van is a medium roof, and one of the reasons that I went with the medium roof was just for that. I didn't need the extra space because I am short, so why go with the extra height on the van? This van handles very well in the wind, but you can feel it if you have a side wind. You can feel it giving you a little push every once in a while over. So understand that if you are driving and if there is a wind, that you are going to have to compensate for that. Now, it may mean that you're not going to be able to drive at 110 kilometers an hour or 120 kilometers an hour on some roads that are listed as 90 or 100, because those roads are rated for that because of the curves and everything else. With the van and with the wind pushing it, you're going to have more of an issue keeping it on the road. So you may have to slow down a little bit more. I don't really mind my van in a crosswind, but I do tend to slow it down just a touch when I have a crosswind, just so I have better handling for that. If you have a bus, you're going to get more blown around. And if you have towing something like a tiny house behind you, you're really going to notice it get blown around. In fact, yesterday, someone passed me towing a trailer, and the trailer was actually off to one side a little bit behind the vehicle because the wind was pushing it over. And when it was coming down the roadway, I actually moved over it quite a bit because I was a little concerned about the wind pushing the whole unit into my lane. So you're going to have to consider that when you get into one of these vehicles. Now, over a car to a van, really there's not a lot of difference, I find, other than you just have to be a little bit more cautious. And that is it. You have weight in the back, so if you have a rear wheel drive like this one is, you will have some weight over the wheels, which is really good for traction and really good for handling. If it's a front wheel drive, just understand that as you put more weight in the back, that you are taking some of the weight off the front. So that's going to change the handling as well. So if you have a van that you haven't built out and you've been driving it for a bit, and then you start adding weight to the back, that's going to change the whole handling pattern as well. So just be careful with that. So if you're getting a van, my suggestion would be take it out, take it somewheres and drive it around to get used to how it handles before you even start to build. And then as you build, continue to inform yourself as to how it will handle. If you're building out a bus, Get used to the bus before you put a lot of weight in it, before you need to drive it somewhere, so that you get comfortable with driving it. I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoy your van, and I hope you get out and have a chance to use it. Talk to you next time.